Hi, my name is Elizabeth Foster and I am the founder of Connect Coach. And what we do at Connect Coach is we connect master expert coaches with clients. And today I am joined by one of our coaches. She is an incredible coach who actually shares the same name as me. Her name is Elizabeth McCourt. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's so funny. You and I, whenever we have conversations, we always laugh. It's like, hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth.
It's almost like a tongue twister to say your own name to somebody else.
It really is, isn't it? It's kind of funny, but there we go. Excellent. Tell us in one sentence what you actually, we know that you're a coach, but tell us actually what you specialize in.
I specialize in leadership coaching and really helping people tap into their courageousness and resilience in being the leader that they need to be to achieve their goals.
Courageousness and resilience. I love that. I think that. Oh gosh, I think that the amount of people that I come across in the world that are actually not living their full life because they're living in a place of being a little bit scared, actually, and afraid of making those changes. And I think that if they just had that a little bit more courage, they would grow wings and fly and just be, really, really cool. So I love the fact that you do that. I think everyone should have a coach that supports them in being courageous.
I do too.
I'm always curious about why coaches became a coach. What was the story that led up to that point of, oh, this is actually what I need to do? Because for me, coaching, it really is. It's almost like a calling in a way. There is something that happens inside of us and we go, this really speaks to me, and this is what I really need to do. So I would love for you to share your coaching story with us.
Oh, sure. It's interesting because I could say that coaching is something that I've been exposed to for myself and in doing it in my entire life. My father is the model of the coach I always aspire to be. He was a sports coach for 7th and 8th grade sports, and tremendously positive an inspirational type coach. And for me, I am always interested in educating myself and learning new things. It's almost like a bit of an addiction. I call myself a bit of a degree collector. And I was looking to just add some additional value to my recruiting career, because I was a recruiter for 16 years. And prior to that, I was a trial lawyer. So I started taking these coach classes. And I thought, that the worst thing that would happen would be that I would just be better at what I was doing. And then I realized that, no, I was doing and developing more skills in something that I was already really good at, something that was really the cornerstone of my success. And I decided that in order to make the impact that I needed to make for other people in the world, that to be a coach and to have my business grow in that direction was really important to me. So that's really the trajectory of how it happened. It's something I'd always done. And when I kind of realized that that's exactly what I was doing, then I realized that that's what I needed to be doing as a career.
I love that, and I think that it's such an interesting background you've got, being a trial lawyer. I can imagine actually would have been, the coaching skills that you would have had in that would have been, would be a perfect kind of segue into what you're doing, now, and recruiting as well. You're supporting people to go out and find the job that's right for them, or find whatever is, make the change in their career. And again, I can imagine those coaching skills really would have been working alongside in many ways, actually, during that time. And so was there one day you kind of woke up and you said, "Ah, okay, I'm stuck." I know, and sometimes you laugh, but sometimes it happens like that.
Yeah.
You know, one day we go, okay, that's it. I'm actually going to officially jump into being a coach instead of unofficially being a coach, which is what I've been doing for the rest of my life. So, did that happen?
I think I'm sort of I'm a bit of a planner, and I'm a calculated risk taker. You know, when I do sports, I'm always calculating the risk. I'm not one to just jump. So I think that the more I learned and the more I educated myself, it became the thing that I needed to do. To not do it would be the failure. So I think when I realized that, I started making the plan. And so it wasn't something that I just said, you know, I flipped a switch and I just said, jump. I made a calculated plan to do it. I mean, it's still a little bit like jumping because no plan is ever perfect, but I think it did take courage, and it did take the steadfast belief that I infuse in my clients of being resilient, knowing that to do what I needed to do, even if it wasn't perfect, even if I was to fail. If I don't practice it myself, then how can I challenge my clients to practice it too?
I love that. I love that. And it's interesting. And there's many different types of people in the world. Those that just jump, and take, you know, a lot more risk, and then there's others that take calculated risks.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing from you is that you're definitely one of the latter. You're definitely, you have no problem taking a risk, but you want to just check it all out beforehand before you just
A little
take
bit. I try to.
Exactly, and I think I think that's a great thing for clients that work with you, because I think that, you know, for them to be making changes in their life, to actually have that that support from somebody that is prepared to take risks. But hey, let's do it. Let's look at the whole picture before we just jump.
Mm-hmm.
That is phenomenal. So excellent. So, okay, we've talked about resilience and we've talked about courage, but you know, who would actually benefit from working with you, and you know, why?
Well, there are a few people that benefit working for me. I think that I am someone who really loves working with people who are already high achieving people. Um, they're already achieving great things, and part of them wants something more. Part of them is being held back in some way, whether it's um, you know, a particular position like a goal, or if it's moving somewhere, you know, moving to another job, or achieving something. I do a lot of athletes as well, so achieving something on, you know, in that particular sport. But it's really people who are not afraid to really take a hard look at themselves, because I kind of describe myself as I'm sort of a practical, creative minded person. I'm very straightforward, and I'm not going to let somebody off the hook. And if someone doesn't like that, or that's not something that works for them, they probably wouldn't like working for me. But if someone likes someone who works with truth and integrity and will challenge someone to do the same, that's really where I can do some of my best work.
I love that idea of working with challenge and truth and integrity, and challenging them, because I think that so many people actually, certainly a lot of people that I've come across, are in a place of hiding,
Mm-hmm.
actually.
Mm-hmm.
hiding from, and there's that uncertainty, and then it's almost like there's an afraidness in them, and it's
Yeah.
like I'm afraid to take that jump. I'm afraid to step out of my comfort zone. I'm afraid to, because I don't know what's out there, and better the the situation that you're in, rather than stepping into
Mm.
somewhere that you could be, oh my goodness me, what could happen here. So I really get that actually there's a lot of people that would benefit from working with you. Those people that kind of have there's that little voice inside that says there's got to be something more than
Mhm,
this.
mhm. Yeah, it's that drive. I always say you've got to try, and if you're a little bit scared, and I tell my clients, if you're a little bit scared, then that's exactly where you should be.
Yeah,
That's good.
it is. It is good. It
Mhm.
absolutely is good, because then we are. We use that word challenge, but then we are challenged, and then we stretch ourselves, and then we go, actually, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
It worked. I didn't die.
Right.
A hole didn't open up in the earth and swallow me up. It's like, I'm
Right.
okay. I'm going to live through this. So absolutely. So can you, what I'd love to, dive a little bit more into what you actually do with your clients. So could you share an example of one of your clients' results? Share us, obviously, without going into too much
Yeah, of
detail, but
course.
but really, yeah, tell us how people have, what the end result is of working with you.
There are so many like wonderful stories. I just got off the phone with a client who was fearful to have a particular conversation. This is a small one, just very fearful of this conversation that was going to come. And I challenged him to not wait for it to come, but to go to that and head it off at the pass. That was his homework, if you will. And he he actually he actually did it, and he asked for something. He's an athlete, and he asked for something that he really wanted and been thinking about but afraid to ask. And and it happened. And this was, I mean, it was just an absolute thrill for me. So that's really, I guess that's one example of a client who just was afraid to do something and just needed some accountability and a challenge. Because I think it's really important as a coach to really put your clients' toes to the fire, because that's really what they're paying for. And a bigger one, I had this other client who wanted to change jobs and had this hobby of actually being a very, very talented painter. And she thought she needed to find a job in the arts. And through our work together over a year, it turned out she totally transformed her job. And she also ended up having an art show where she sold out every painting that she had done. And so that was just an incredible transformation and success story that I was able to be a part of and witness.
Wow, I think that's amazing. So she comes to you, she is in a place where she's not sure what she wants to do, and needs to make a transition, and then all of a sudden, through working with you, she has an art show and sells out. And it's
Yeah,
a passion of hers. I love that. I love that.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
so, I can imagine if I was a client working with you, that would be, I would be very inspired, and uh, I think the way that you can actually create those results with your clients is phenomenal. So
oh,
well
thank
done,
you.
you.
And I guess
Um,
I was going to say the other thing is that I didn't, she chose what she wanted to do and I supported her. I think that's the most essential thing, that I have no judgment, whatever it is that a client chooses to do, to change a job, to have an art show, to ask for something. So that's really the essential element. Whatever the client knows they need, because we do all have our very own answers, don't we?
We certainly do. And what fits one person is certainly not necessarily a good fit for somebody else.
Mhm.
And our strengths as well. You know, our strengths
Yes.
are in one area might be excellent, but in another area might not be. And so
Right.
I think what I'm hearing you say is that when people come to you, you're very much an open space, an accepting space, and a supportive space
Mhm.
for them to make a
Right.
transition in their life.
Exactly. And I want to challenge them to go deep and to go there to achieve what they want. Whatever it is that, they choose to do.
And I love that idea. You were talking about, holding their feet to the fire. I always think
Mhm.
that's such a great expression, although a really scary one. Uh, but actually, the power, or one of the powers, one of the great powers of coaching, really is accountability.
Yes.
And having somebody to hold your hand and say, okay, you said you're going to do it, and now have you done it? Okay, what's going
That's
on?
right. That's right. Yeah. And I always say to clients before we start, I say that, we can be friendly, but I'm not your friend. So if you don't do something, your friend will say, "Oh, that's okay." I said, but as your coach, I'm going to ask you, what happened that you didn't do what you said you were going to do?
Yeah, and I think that's powerful. That's powerful, and necessary, because often there's a reason why we've not done something in our life. There's
Mhm.
a reason we hire a coach. There's a reason that we're playing small, and to actually have that support to find out what it is that you want, to actually make a plan to get there, and to have that support to actually achieve it is, that's the essence
Yeah.
of coaching.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's incredibly, for myself personally and what I give my clients, I know how valuable it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I can tell that you're a very passionate coach, and I know that you're a very good coach. But what gives you the greatest joy when you're actually coaching a client?
I love when I had this one client and we'd worked on a bunch of things. We'd been coaching for a while. And he he came back to me and he said, I was going to make this our topic and ask you about it, but I realized that I know how to do this, that I already had the skills and I knew how to do this. And it's almost like watching someone graduate like that, to have a client really embrace the strengths and the values that they bring to every action they do, both personally and professionally, because I do believe that they're intertwined, the person that you are. But to have someone actually own who they are, that is just that was one of the best calls. That's like, I don't need you call. I know how to do this. That was really a thrill.
And it kind of what you said just reminds me of that Chinese expression. You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, and you feed him for life. But actually, what you're saying is actually innately, this client knew how to do all of that stuff. He just needed that hand holding, actually not even hand holding,
No.
that support, and that somebody else saying, it's you have this, you don't need me, and I love that. I think that's so powerful.
Mm.
um so okay, I can imagine that by now the watchers are, because I'm kind of like, okay, so there's part of me that go, actually I want to hire you as my coach. um and I'm sure that there are other people that are out there that are, maybe thinking of that as well. It's like, oh, maybe she'd be the right coach for me. So what would you like to say to somebody that was thinking of working with you?
I would say to them that if you're, I guess not everyone is going to connect. In coaching, you really have to, both for the coach and client, you have to connect with that person in some way. So if someone is wanting to be more fearless and wanting to achieve something, and doesn't want a coach who will kind of let them wriggle away. I think that I bring both practical mindedness and fun, because I think that's really important to have that balance, because that's the way I personally live my life. Is it's serious, but it's got to be fun too. So that's really what a client can expect from me. I'm not I'm not all fun and games, but we have a lot of fun when I coach.
I love that. I love that. And I can see that in you. You're very much, and you know, we've had various conversations over the time that we've known one another, and I very much see that in you. You know, there's that fun. Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to travel. We're going to experience this. We're going to there's that whole side of you, but also there's that. Okay, let's go. This is what we're doing. Okay. This is work time. We've had playtime, and now we're going to do work.
That's right.
I love that. I love that. So, I mean, I want to know a little bit more about you. Not you as the coach, but you, Elizabeth. So, what do you do outside of your work to really to balance your life? And you know, what are you passionate about?
Well, I'm very much connected to, the physical body and the mind and how it works together. So I am an avid yogi, and also maybe on the flip side of that, but not really, is I'm an avid triathlete. I've been doing triathlon for a very long time. That's swim, bike, run, and my sweet spot distance is quite long. It's a 6-hour plus race. So that's really challenging my body, which is also challenging my mind. I do like the mental element of sport, which is why I do like working with people who are athletes in some form, not necessarily professional, although I do work with some high level people like that. But so I love working with that for my own self. And then the other thing I love to do is I love to write. That is my form of art. I'm not a painter or someone who draws, but for me, when I do the personal essay, is where I can get my my topic and really be authentic and really dig deep. And I tend to do it on paper. So I do essays, and I actually wrote a novel as well. So that I did a fiction, and I'm working on a nonfiction book as well. So writing is really just a personal passion of mine.
I love that. I love that. So, may I ask, what are you writing on now? What's the book?
Sure. I'm right now. I've been mentally working on it for a while, and I've actually just really kind of gotten this extra motivation to work on a book about screw-ups in leadership. It's about courage and resilience, and leaders really, embracing their failures and how that informs leadership. So it's what I'm passionate about in my coaching, and all my stories have that particular element. So now I am collecting them, and so that's hopefully that's a great project that I'm working on right now as we speak.
So, does it have a title? I mean, are we there? Are we allowed to? Or is it? Or it's just like it's a working title, or I'm not there yet. You can say, or you can not say. It's all good. It's all good.
I have a working title. I have and this is an audio show, but the soft version of the working title is Screw-Ups in Leadership.
Screw-Ups in Leadership. Yeah. And I've seen a few of those myself.
We all have, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for me, you say Screw-Ups in Leadership, and there's a part of me that goes, yep, and the lessons that came out of them.
That's right. I think really the best leaders, as you know, are the ones, I mean, if you don't screw up, how do you get to the success? I mean, nobody's perfect. Even the leaders we look at and we think, oh, this person is perfect, but they probably had a number of bumps along the way that we just, we sort of push those aside. I mean, everyone has them, and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be massive. It can even be just a little screw up.
Yeah. I think that's yeah.
I know. Trust me. Someone just said to me the other day, when do you know? Do you ever stop the resilience and failure? And I said, I don't know. I don't think so.
I know. I was just trying to think about the Screwups in leadership. That could be a really big book.
It could be. It could be. It could be.
But it sounds like you need a book coach as well to keep you accountable.
That's right. I know. I have. I actually do have of writing partners and accountability, and because I mean, I need it. I like to have, I guess whatever works for you personally. Yeah, I do need to have some kind of a deadline to move myself forward, particularly in writing, because it is, for me personally, I can always sabotage myself. I feel like, with my clients, I've seen it all. That's why I can help somebody else, because, I've seen it too. I mean, sort of the best learning is through the eyes of your client. That's, part of the exciting element of coaching, is that you learn too. And I'm inspired too by so many of my clients and what they achieve.
Yeah, it's really kind of cool. So talking of achieving, I know that you've actually were invited to take part in a TEDx talk. So you are actually a TEDx speaker. You've been there and done it, which is kind of cool, because that's what a lot of people aspire to. So I'd love just a 2 minutes. I'd love to find out a little bit about that, and then maybe we can go on to, okay, you've done that, but what's next? What are your goals? What are your ambitions?
Sure. So for me, also doing a TED Talk after I had seen one, I wrote a sticky note and put it in my wallet to remind myself, and I tell clients to do the same. Someday I am going to do a TED Talk, and then an opportunity arose, and I was able to get accepted on that stage at my alma mater, Stony Brook, to give a TED Talk called "Why You Should Spill Your Secrets." And it was one of the biggest thrills of mine, because you're never sure if your idea worth spreading, because that's what a TEDx, what they want. Would my idea be enough for someone to have on that TED stage? And when I was getting up on that stage, how I really motivated myself through my nerves was to say, if I can just make a difference to one person, sharing, I shared my little secret, and then went through some research for the talk. But if I can impact one person in a positive way, to let them know, if I can do it, you can do it too. That was sort of the basis of my talk, that if I can, if I can overcome something, then you can too. Then my talk would be a success. But it was an absolute thrill, and such a fantastic learning experience I had a little talk to get accepted, and then to develop it into a bigger talk, and then to actually give it on, a stage in front of an audience where it would be filmed and produced. I mean, it was quite a thrill.
Yeah, I can imagine that must have been quite a phenomenal experience, and it's certainly, yes, absolutely on my to-do lists. That's for sure. So what's next? I mean, we know that you're a yogi, which I think is phenomenal. I'm one myself, and we know that you're a triathlete, which I am not, by the way.
I can help you with that.
There we go. But and so and you're a coach, so you're used to goals and you're used to ambitions, and you've done the TED Talk and you've achieved a lot in your life. But what's next? I mean, where are you headed? Apart from writing a book, of course.
Yeah, that's a big question, Elizabeth. I do several things. I have, my goals, like everyone else's, are always changing. I do go and speak at conferences and present at conferences, and that is something I like to further develop. I do one in Europe, in Germany, for the past 3 years, and at this year, I'm actually doing a couple of presentations because they asked me if I would just present a little section on this journal that I'm on the board for, a philosophy of coaching journal, actually. But so that is my professional goal. And personally, part of my goals include getting that book and my book of fiction, which will be returning to me shortly. I want to get that out into the world. So I have writing goals. And then I guess coaching goals of, really making impact with the clients that I have and developing certain, relationships and really having just both that business and personal, balance and success, and being able to spend time with the people I love. That's always up there, because I think that's essentially important to happiness.
I can't agree with you more. I think, and they talk about the balance of life, and certainly I know that so many people live an unbalanced life, and so I love the way that you bring in having that personal side as well. That's really cool. So just going back to the TED Talk and the fact that you've written a book, a lot of people would kind of go, wow, that's really great. I really admire that. And that's wonderful. But I want to know, who do you admire? I mean, who do you look up to, and why?
Well, one of the people I look up to and I try and model my coaching after is my dad, who was, just kind of just a model of positivity and resilience. And I saw how he was able to impact people in the world and people that he affected through the person that he was. And if I could be a little bit of that, then that would be wonderful. And I have also, I have a friend, sort of people that inspire me to be better and to own who I am and to own my strength. I find those, I have two people in my life that are really, really, it's two of my best friends that are really important to me. And I just admire the confidence and strength that they have and how they impact people. And so that's really, yes, the people surrounding me really are the ones that I admire and aspire to be like.
I love that, and I love the fact that you put your father out there as the first person, because I think that really shows the upbringing that you had, which has made you the person that you are, which makes you the coach that you are. Right. So I think that's phenomenal. Thank you. So I have one very short
okay,
last question, which is, it's kind of a big question though.
Okay.
All right. So what do you want to change in the world?
I want to change. Such a big question, Elizabeth. I want people to really embrace the differences in other people. If I could change that, or just a little bit of just getting to have people, you don't have to accept, but just perhaps not to judge another culture or political side or difference or passion or whatever it is, but just to use it as a starting point of understanding. I'm not saying agreeing, I'm just saying a respect and understanding of something that is different from you.
So it's in a way, it's kind of like I'm just pricing what you just said, which was, what you'd want to change in the world. And actually, it sounds like what you are doing in the world is really creating an open space for understanding and acceptance of others that are not the same as you.
I hope so.
I think that's kind of cool. I love that. I love that. Elizabeth, you and I could carry on talking for a long, long time because.
So.
However, so we're going to take. Maybe we'll finish off our conversation off air. But I want to thank you for coming on today. I want to thank you for really taking this time and sharing yourself with us, and with the watchers, because I think that it's. You bring something very special to Connect to Coach, and I think that is powerful. So, thank you for coming on. Is there anything that you'd like to just to say at the end before we say goodbye?
Oh, I just thank you for listening, and thank you for all your kind words. And I look forward to continuing to connect with you and other people who might have an interest. So I would love for people to just have that experience of coaching, whether we work together or not. I think everyone should have the experience. Wonderful.
Elizabeth, thank you. And I really would love to say, I'd really love to say that I appreciate you coming on, and I think that anybody wanting to book in with you should definitely do that. And even just to have a conversation with you, I think that'd be fantastic. Great. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Bye-bye.